Hi, I'm really glad you're here. Can I ask you a question? Have you ever caught yourself saying, I promised myself I wouldn't do that again? Maybe it was another argument. Maybe withdrew from your love from someone. Maybe you became defensive or stayed silent when you wanted to speak. Maybe you reached for something you knew wasn't helping. And afterwards came that familiar feeling, the shame, the confusion, the frustration, and you wonder, why do I keep doing this? If you've ever asked yourself that question, I want you to know something. You're certainly not alone. And perhaps more importantly, the answer may not be what you've been told. Many people believe that repeating a pattern means that they're weak or lacking discipline or somehow broken. But what if the pattern isn't the real problem? What if it's trying to point towards something that's actually much deeper? You see, most of us spend our lives trying to change our behaviours. Next time I'll stay calm. Next time I won't overthink. Next time I'll stop people pleasing. Or next time I won't go back. And these are good intentions. Those are good intentions. But behaviour rarely exists on its own. Behaviour usually grows from somewhere beneath the surface. A belief. Not simply something you think, but something you've come to experience as true. Sometimes without even realising it. And that's one of the most remarkable things about being human. Our brains are constantly learning from experience, especially early in life. As children, we don't learn from facts, we learn what feels safe. We learn what relationships are like and what to expect from other people. And we slowly develop beliefs that help us make sense of the world. For one person, that belief might become, I'm not enough. For someone else, people always leave. Or, I have to earn love. Or if I let people see the real me, they'll reject me. And none of us sits down consciously to choose these beliefs, but they're often just built slowly, through repeated experiences. And here's where it becomes fascinating. The brain isn't simply reacting to what's happening around us. Much of the time it's predicting. It uses yesterday to make sense of today. It asks, based on everything I've learned before, what should I expect now? That prediction happens in a heartbeat, usually before we're even aware of it. So imagine someone who quietly has carried the belief people eventually leave me. When someone takes a little longer than usual to reply to a message, their body feels anxious. Their thoughts begin racing. They start imagining the worst. Perhaps they seek reassurance. Perhaps they become angry or pull away first. From the outside, it can seem like an overreaction, but for the brain's perspective, it's acting consistently with a story they've believed for years. Not because the story is necessarily true today, but because it once helped make sense of the world. And that same thing that can happen in families, at work, in relationships, in friendships, in parenting, even in the way we speak to ourselves. Different situations, but the same emotional ending. And that's why changing behaviour alone can sometimes feel so difficult. Imagine trying to remove branches of a tree while leaving the roots untouched. The branches keep growing back, not because we're failing, but because the roots are still feeding them. Beliefs often work the same way. The patterns keep returning because the belief underneath remains unquestioned. Now, I want to be careful here. This isn't about blaming our childhood. It's not about blaming, please, also the parents. Every family has strengths and every family has struggles. Most parents are doing the very best that they can with what they know. This is simply about understanding how humans kind of beings learn, right? Because understanding creates compassion, and compassion creates space for change. So how do we begin? Perhaps with a different question. And instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Try asking, what belief would make this behaviour make perfect sense? Notice how different that feels. If I always apologise, what might I believe? If I avoid conflict, what might I believe? If I constantly seek approval, what might I believe? If I keep ending up in similar relationships, what might I believe? Sometimes the answers come quickly, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they emerge gently over time, and that's okay. Healing is rarely about rushing, it's about becoming curious. Because curiosity softens shame. And once we can kind of see that belief, we can begin asking another question. Is the question still serving me? Is the belief still serving me? It's completely true. Could there be another way to understand this? That's the questions. It's powerful. See, those questions don't erase years of learning overnight, but they do something incredibly important. They create a space, a small gap between the old belief. And our next response over time to those small moments matter. Because every time you respond differently, you're giving your brain new evidence, new experiences, new possibilities, little by little. And pathways begin to change. Not because you're forcing yourself to become someone different, but because you're gently teaching your brain that the world may be safer, kinder, and more flexible than it once believed. So if you've been carrying shame because you keep finding yourself in the same place, I hope you'll leave with this thought today. Because perhaps you're not seeing the same pattern because you're not broken. Perhaps you're seeing the same patterns because your mind has been faithfully following a belief it learned years ago. And if a belief can be learned, it can also be questioned. It can be updated. It can slowly be replaced by something that's more accurate, more compassionate, more helpful. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this conversation helped you understand yourself just a little more, then I'm genuinely grateful we shared these few minutes together. Please take gentle care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.